Welcome everyone to the Food Security in Iowa Winter Webinar Series. Today we're going to be talking about working with food banks, and I've got Cindy Haynes and Sarah Boniface here with me today. My name is Susan DeBleek, and I'm the Program Assistant for the statewide Master Gardener Program. Today is the second part of a three-part webinar series, and we've been giving examples of what Master Gardeners are doing to increase access to fresh produce. Today we're going to specifically be talking about working with food banks and particularly about the demonstration gardens that are at the ISU research farms. A couple materials that we have for you today. We've got a handout that's got some discussion questions and a place for you to take notes. It also has an evaluation form, so please fill that out and let us know what you thought and what your next steps might be. And also another resource for you is the grant guidelines. We really want to encourage you to apply for the mini grants, so please see those grant guidelines and take a look at the grant application. It's very short and easy to fill out. Today we're going to be talking about the Iowa State University Research Farm demonstration gardens. Then we're going to jump into a discussion about food banks, in particular their fresh produce initiative, and some best practices for donating to food pantries. This is all part of the Master Gardener Food Security Project, which is funded by the USDA SNAP-Ed program. That's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance program that our focus is that we're going to make fruits and vegetables more accessible to families in poverty in Iowa. And one of the main inspirations for doing this project is you, the Master Gardeners, because you're already donating to pantries and growing for pantries. So we want to support you in the work that you're doing and encourage more people to step up. Three pieces of this food security project are the webcasts, which you're participating in right now, also the demonstration gardens, which we're going to learn a little bit more about later, and we are also have mini grants available to you. And a little bit more about the mini grants. As you know, these are due on March 1st, so you have a little bit of time to get that short application in. This is for up to $1,000, and one of the requirements is that somebody as part of your group is engaging in these webcasts. You already have the guidelines in front of you, and the application is online. It's just a single form that'll be easy for you to submit. One of the requirements is that you secure Extension and Outreach County staff support. One of the reasons that we need that staff support is because we want the Extension and Outreach staff to be on board with this project. There are three different pieces that you could use as an activity for the mini grants. And again, these are inspired by what you're already doing in your communities. And the three pieces we're calling Grow, Connect, and Teach. So you can convert, maintain, or start a donation. You can grow food. You can connect food pantries and gardeners to one another. And you can also teach food bank clients about gardens and gardening. Just a little bit about the allowable expenses for the mini grants. We want to help cover seeds and seedlings that you're purchasing for your donation gardens or for your project. That includes potting soil, compost, and fertilizer. Small tools are included. Mileage, if you are driving or if you are delivering produce from a demonstration garden to the food pantry, you could count your mileage. And also promotional materials, so if you need to print things off to showcase what you're doing or to hand out at events, those are available to you as well. A little bit more detail about this. So as I mentioned before, you need county level support to move forward with this project. And one of the reasons is that the way that this mini grant is working is that the mini grant is going to be a reimbursement to the Extension and Outreach County office. So you need to work hand in hand with them so that they know what expenses are being used. We're going to need detailed receipts, and all of those detailed receipts will be handed in, and the reimbursement will occur in the fall. So if your project is going on through the summer, make sure you're speaking with the Extension and Outreach County office about what you're doing, and then maybe they have a Master Gardener fund that they could reimburse you and then later they could get the reimbursement directly to the county office from campus in the fall. I wanted to share a few examples of what Master Gardeners are doing in terms of the connect aspect of the mini grant project. So again, this is connecting growers to food pantries. One of the newer projects that we're really excited about is called Up From the Earth, and this is up in Woodbury County. And Up From the Earth are a group of Master Gardeners who are connecting food pantries to gardeners, and they're also encouraging gardeners to grow an extra row of food for those in need. So Master Gardeners partnered with Blue Zones to set up collection sites at 19 locations, and also at the Salvation Army. So they're driving around to pick up and drop off produce at a bunch of different locations. And this is all done by a core group of 6 Master Gardener volunteers. They've gathered thousands of pounds of sweet corn, apples, and squash, just to name a few crops. Another project that's been going on for a while with many Master Gardener groups is Plant a Row for the Hungry, and this is a national program of the Garden Writers Association. And in Story County, Master Gardeners have been collecting produce at the farmers market, and they also collect produce from home gardeners. And this picture here is a home garden that was planted specifically for donations of produce, and volunteers manage it, and all the food goes into the food pantry. And in 2015, the Master Gardeners in Story County collected 8,301 pounds of food. So that's quite a lot of produce going into the food bank system. And some of the Master Gardener partners are Ryman Gardens, Wheatsfield Cooperative, and the United Way. So this is a really exciting national program that maybe you're taking part in as well. Another resource that I know many of you Master Gardeners are using is ampleharvest.org. Now, Ample Harvest was founded by a Master Gardener who saw the need of creating an online platform for gardeners to see which pantries wanted to accept food. And one of the projects that they focus on is they're encouraging people to put centerpieces up at conferences or at their homes and then donate those centerpieces later to pantries. So you can see a picture here of squash and apples that are then going to be donated to pantries. So this might be a resource that you're already using in your community. If you haven't already, be sure to register your garden and also encourage food banks and food pantries in your area to register on the ampleharvest.org website so that you can see who to connect with. Great. Well, I wanted to hand it over to Cindy Haynes, who's going to talk to you about the demonstration gardens that are at the Iowa State University Research Farms.
Welcome. I'm Cindy Haynes. I am an associate professor here at the Department of Horticulture and one of the team of consumer horticulture extension specialists that help coordinate the ISU home demonstration gardens. Some other members of our team, the consumer horticulture team, include Richard Geron, who is the Hortline guy. You might know him if you call or email the Hortline and ask a question. You know Denny Schrock, who is the Master Gardener Coordinator for the state of Iowa, Susan DeBleek, who's also the Program Assistant for the Master Gardener Program, and then another one I'd like to introduce is Laura Irish, who's a graduate student who'll be starting or has started for the Master Gardener Program as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about the goal or a little bit about those ISU home demonstration gardens. And there is a mission or a goal for the home demonstration garden program. The ISU home demonstration gardens have been in existence for over 40 years. So we've grown fruits, vegetables, and flowers at these demonstration gardens for the public for quite a long time. The primary goal is to encourage gardening. So we grow and display new and unusual varieties of vegetables or flowers, demonstrate various cultural practices and or gardening techniques or ideas to Iowans, so that we hope that we're encouraging others to garden more and maybe even donate more as well. Michigan. The ISU home demonstration gardens for 2016 will be at 7 sites this year. We're scattered throughout the state of Iowa. We're a small portion, or maybe half, of the ISU research farms across the state, but we've got them kind of nicely scattered so that we're in different soil types, we're in different communities as well. In the northwest corner of the state, we're at the Lyon County Fair in Rock Rapids. In the southwest corner of the state, we're in Lewis near Atlantic at the Armstrong Research Farm. In the central part of the state, we're at Kanawha or Nashua, or the Ames or Gilbert Research Farm. And then in the southeast part of the state, we are at Muscatine Island Research Farm, which is actually in Fruitland, and then the Southeast Farm, which is in Crawfordsville. At each of these gardens, we have a 40 by 80 designated space where we grow plants for demonstration or display. We generally decide what will be planted in January and February. We order the seed. We grow the plants here in Ames, or start the seedlings here in Ames, and then we deliver those seedlings to the different research farms in early May. They acclimate them, and then they're planted usually middle to late May at each of the different gardens or farms. This is just a small part of what the ISU research and demonstration gardens or farms do, but it's an important part. So, and while 40 by 80 seems rather small, there's a lot going on in that little plot as a garden. Each of those gardens are broken down into kind of 4 quadrants, and this year 3 out of those 4 quadrants will be dedicated to this SNAP Ed produce food bank garden. In the past, we've had different themes for the garden, and they have been very random. Some have been very whimsical, and some have been very focused based on trends. We have done grafting tomatoes before. We've done cherry tomatoes. We've done heirloom tomatoes. We've done sweet potatoes, blue potatoes, heirloom potatoes, all different types of basil, cultivars of basils, as well as other herbs. Petunias, zinnias, sunflowers, geraniums, even sun patiens have been some of the floral features. One of the whimsical things we did in 2001 was have a garden for the birds. So we had a bird bath in the center of the garden, and then we had everything that had a bird or a feather name in it. And that was the year we had chickens and chicken tractors in the garden as well. So very, vastly different themes from year to year. In the past couple of years, we've had some fruit in the garden. We have raspberries in the garden now. That was a theme for last year. And we've had strawberries in the garden as well. The 2016 themes will be primarily about produce and pollinators. The produce, which is 3/4 of the garden, will focus on how much we can actually grow and donate to the food banks. Another, about 1/4 of the garden in the center, will be focused on pollinators. Each of the research farms has a monarch consortium garden, and so we want to connect with that, which is attracting monarchs, and to talk about how our home gardens can have pollinator gardens as well. So a lot of flowers. This will be beneficial for the produce side of things because those pollinators that are attracted are very necessary in producing the pounds that we want from our produce garden. When we're talking about the produce theme of the garden, these are the crops that we're considering and that we're going to try and grow many different cultivars of. So we have bush beans, tomatoes, probably the kind of processing type tomatoes, cucumbers, sweet potatoes, regular Irish potatoes, zucchini, a melon like a muskmelon or a honeydew melon, onions, peppers, and carrots. Not an unusual or novelty types of plants. They're very kind of standard varieties for each of these. So for potatoes, we'll grow Kennebec, which is a very popular productive potato, and then maybe try 2 or 3 other cultivars that are up and coming to see how they compare to the standard Kennebec. Same with the bush beans that we grow. It'll be Blue Lake comparing to 2 or 3 other cultivars as well. So once again, we're about growing as much as we possibly can so that we can donate as much as possible. In doing this will require a lot of help, and we are asking for help from master gardeners and other volunteers to be citizen scientists. As part of the citizen scientist component, that means helping, harvest a lot of this produce. We will be doing some data collection and then delivery to the different food banks. This is where master gardeners shine because they love learning and they love doing and they love volunteering and helping others. And then a lot of this information is actually used in the future. This means that we're looking for volunteer labor for the gardens at all aspects of the gardens. We'll have to remind everyone that each of these ISU research and demonstration farms has a farm superintendent and usually has 1 or 2 employees as well. So they're there to help and to kind of guide you through this process. But they also have certain kind of structures or processes in place to make sure that everything is set up and run kind of nicely. So the labor we're looking for is at planting, which will be in May. There will be some maintenance, watering and weeding, of course, in usually June and into July. Harvesting for most of the garden will start sometime in July and may continue through August, of course. Harvesting could mean for bush beans and raspberries 3 or 4 times a week. Very productive plants we're hoping for. With that harvest comes data collection. Part of that data collection is about counts, how many green beans do we have, and then weights, how much did we harvest that day. And then we might actually break that into marketable and non-marketable materials. And then, of course, some food safety, washing of that, and then delivery of the produce to a local food bank. So it's pretty intensive, and there will be more training on this as well. But it's very important. And we think we can do a great job at producing thousands of pounds of produce for the food banks. Delivery of the produce to the food banks will have to be as consistent as harvesting as well. Many of our research farms or demonstration gardens don't necessarily have the facilities to store things for a long time. So we're hoping that it's harvested and washed and delivered all in the same day to a nearby food bank. So if you apply and receive a mini grant, then we can reimburse you for that mileage aspect from the research farms to the food bank. It does require that application part of it, that might be a big cost for some of those master gardeners. So if you apply for a mini grant, then you can get reimbursed at the end of the season for that mileage or the distance that you traveled from the research farm to the food bank. This information is used that we will be collecting about the weights and the counts. We're going to make this kind of a cultivar trial, which we've done in the past. Every year we kind of create these home demonstration garden reports, and then we'll kind of compare that Blue Lake green bean to the other green bean cultivars that we're growing. The same with the potatoes and the carrots and the sweet potatoes, so that we can provide information to home gardeners on saying that maybe this cultivar is as good, if not better, than our standard kind of cultivar that we've grown. How do you volunteer and you get involved in working with the home demonstration gardens? Your first contact is someone within your county office. So contact that master gardener coordinator first they will get in touch directly with the farm superintendent. But what I'd like them to do is be able to say, here's a list of volunteers that will help you with the home demonstration garden, and then we can kind of schedule a meeting at the home demonstration garden, meet the superintendent and the staff, and kind of go over some of those expectations and do some on-site training at planting, or maybe even before planting, so that you know at the beginning of the season. So your first contact is that county master gardener coordinator. Once that is rolling and once you are part of this process, we end the home demonstration garden with field days. These field days usually occur sometime in July or early August, and we have a lot of people that attend. Here's a field day that happened just last year at the Armstrong Research Farm, where over 100 people attended, and they were learning about a Three Sisters garden at that particular point. There will be 7 field days across the state at each of the farms. Sometime in July or early August, we generally have over 500 attendees at all of these farms. So one will have 100 to 200 people, another one that might be a smaller crowd of about 30. So I'm asking for the volunteers that helped with the garden to attend as well, because there's a lot of questions they ask about what you grew, how it grew, was this easy to harvest? And you are the expert, just like I am. So we'll all kind of do these field days together. They're fun because usually we taste test a few things from the garden as well, or we take pictures so that it's a really great, engaging kind of learning and connecting experience. At those field days too, we hope to kind of have a tally of how much produce was actually been donated at the gardens. So that's another nice thing, because that's near the end of the season. Not the total end, but near the end of the season. So some of the tips for choosing crops for your donation garden, if you're thinking about a mini grant and maybe want to have a garden that's not at the home demonstration gardens or somewhere else, are some things that we've considered and that we've worked well with, is thinking about the crops that you would want to donate. It's been pretty important for the food bank to think of popular crops, things that most people know how to use. So potatoes and squash and bell peppers and tomatoes are some that are very easily used, and they know how to cook and prepare. The more unusual crops maybe don't get selected as often, because they just maybe don't know how to prepare it. So those more obscure, more novelty crops are things that we're trying to avoid in the home demonstration garden, and things that maybe are not as well liked as other things. Other things that we consider to grow for the home demonstration gardens are things that we can grow well, things that are easy to grow, things that don't require maybe quite as much maintenance or don't have as much pest pressure as other things. So cabbage isn't on the list, one, because it's a cool season crop, and because it has a lot of problems with insect damage or holes in the leaves. So we generally avoid that one because it requires a lot of insecticide or other things to kind of care for it. Cabbage would be well received at most food banks because it stores really well and most people know how to use it. But it's one that we might not be growing at the home demonstration gardens, just simply because it's harder sometimes to grow it well. Another thing to consider in choosing crops for your donation garden is that post-harvest care. We've been very selective of things that may not need refrigeration, or things that aren't as quickly perishable as other items. So zucchini and beans might require some refrigeration, but they can probably go a day without it. Tomatoes don't usually need refrigeration, but still need to get to a food bank pretty quickly. Other things like potatoes and onions can store pretty well without refrigeration for a considerable time. So think about those things that you can get to a food bank rather quickly, but then they may not have to hand out immediately that same day. So it's something that's easy to keep for a day or two. Okay, not necessarily 2 weeks, but they can keep a little bit longer. And with that, we'll get you started in thinking about how you want to be involved in this kind of either at the ISU research demonstration gardens or connecting with projects in your area. How do you get into small groups? Find someone next to you, in front of, or behind you, 3-person groups if you can do it, and answer these 2 questions, and then you're going to report back to the coordinator at your site. The 2 questions are you interested in helping at the ISU research and demonstration gardens? And if you are, we definitely need your name. And 2, are there any other Connect projects that you have in your area that you would be interested in maybe starting some mini grant possibilities?
Thank you for being here today. Thank you for taking part in this training webinar. My name is Sarah Boniface. I am with the Food Bank of Iowa, and I am going to talk to you today about how to work with your local food banks on your gardens and how to get that great produce into the hands of people who need it. The Food Bank of Iowa is located in Des Moines, although we are one of 8 food banks that cover the state of Iowa. Our vision is to have a hunger-free Iowa. We do this through our mission of alleviating hunger through food distribution, partnership, and education. We are affiliated with both Feeding America, which is a national organization, and we're part of the Iowa Food Bank Association. All of the 8 food banks in the state of Iowa are affiliated with these 2 organizations. Some facts about hunger in Iowa. What is startling is 1 in 8 Iowans are food insecure, and particularly disturbing is 1 in 5 children does not have enough to eat on a daily basis. Nearly 400 Iowans live at or below the poverty line. Last year, the Food Bank of Iowa was able to distribute over 11 million pounds of donated grocery products and USDA foods. For every $1 that's donated, the Food Bank of Iowa is able to provide 4 meals. What is it exactly that we do at the Food Bank of Iowa? Our main focus is distributing food to over 390 partner agencies. We have agencies in 55 counties in the state. We cover over half of the state. 42 of those counties are served through our facility in Des Moines. The redistribution organization in Ottumwa, the Food Bank of Southern Iowa, helps us to serve the additional 13 counties. Our facility in Des Moines is a 53,000 square foot warehouse. We have large coolers. We also have large freezers, so we are able to handle all of the perishable items. Our partner agencies are food pantries, shelters, meal sites, treatment facilities, nonprofit organizations that provide a meal service, an ongoing meal service for low-income families, seniors, and children. While many agencies come to our facility to pick up food, we also deliver, and we have 3 trucks. Each has a reefer unit on it so that we can deliver cold product. We deliver to our partner agencies as well as to some of our direct service programs throughout our service area. We have a retail store pickup program with several major retailers in the area, including Walmart and Target stores, where product will be pulled back and then it is picked up by our trucks, and we're able to distribute that food. Our direct service programs include the backpack program, which is a program that sends a sack of food home with children on the weekends when they don't have access to the breakfast and lunch program at their school. We have 130 backpack program sites. Each week that program is serving nearly 5,500 children. The HUSH program is a collaborative program with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, meat lockers, and hunters, where deer hunters can continue to hunt after they've been able to acquire what they would like. They take that to participating meat lockers, and that deer is processed into 2-pound packages of ground venison. Overall, we distribute nearly 200,000 pounds of that ground venison every year, and it is truly a product that has become a staple product in many low-income families' households. Mobile pantries are a newer program for us, and we use mobile pantries specifically in our rural counties where there are fewer services, there are fewer agencies that are available to help families who are in need. Mobile pantries are a wonderful way for us to be able to distribute all of the great produce that comes in as we load up our own vehicles and we set up in a predetermined location with volunteers and set up what could essentially be a pop-up pantry. At the end of that time, we are able to then take our empty pallets and freezer blankets back to our facility in Des Moines until it's time to go for the next mobile pantry. School pantries are also a new program for us, but we are setting up pantries in schools, on the grounds, and again, this is a program that we're targeting more rural areas where you will have a campus that would perhaps have the elementary, junior high school, and high school all in one building or all in a set of buildings that are close together. We set these pantries up in the school so that children, students, and their families are able to access them in a very easy, discreet manner. This talks a little bit about the flow of food to the Food Bank of Iowa. Our food donors provide the food to us, and donors will provide funding so that we're able to purchase food. It will be through manufacturers, retailers. We are also the distribution point for USDA commodity foods, as are all of the food banks that cover the state of Iowa. So donors provide the food or the funding to purchase that. It comes to our facility at the Food Bank of Iowa. We then can distribute that to our partner agencies. The partner agencies are really the primary source of direct service to hungry families and individuals in the community. Hunger in America is a study that is done by food banks every 4 years. And we have some information here that is specifically on the state of Iowa. The weak economy has increased challenges for clients. There's been slow but steady economic recovery. Unfortunately, it's led to the highest poverty rates in the past 50 years. This is primarily due to long periods of unemployment, underemployment, where somebody may have lost their job, they may have found a new job, but it pays at a lower wage or fewer hours. There are also lower wages at full-time positions, or families who may have been able to get work. Again, it's a combination of several part-time positions. The economic trends have contributed to rapid growth in the numbers of households seeking and receiving federal food assistance. The increased need for food assistance at the federal level, programs such as SNAP benefits, which were formerly known as food stamps, that increased need is mirrored in the number of clients seeking help from the Charitable Food Assistance Network. That food assistance network is the Food Bank of Iowa, our food bank partners across the state, as well as the hundreds of partner agencies. While I mentioned that the Food Bank of Iowa distributed over 11 million pounds of food, collectively, the food banks in the state of Iowa distributed 26 million pounds of food last year. I talked early on about our partnership and affiliation with Feeding America. And as I mentioned, food banks in the state are all members of the Feeding America network. Feeding America food banks are truly on the front lines of hunger relief. This chart explains a bit more as to how the food comes, how the support comes from our national organization through partnerships and national funds that our local food banks are able to access so that we can best serve our partner agencies. Ultimately, our goal is to best serve the food program clients, either those receiving food at the food pantry, having a meal at a center, receiving treatment in some type of facility, or through our own direct service programs. Each food bank may work with hundreds of partner agencies, to get food to people that are facing hunger. The characteristics of clients is information that is taken, again, directly from the Hunger in America study. 70% of households served contain children under 18 or seniors over 60. 35% of the households report a member has diabetes, and 46% have high blood pressure. Both issues which can be helped tremendously with the provision of fresh fruits and vegetables. 23% of households report a member had previously served in the military, while 10% of those households currently have a member serving. Education is also prevalent in many of the households that are seeking food assistance. 47% of clients report having at least a high school diploma or a general education diploma, a GED, with 30% of clients report having a post-high school education of some kind. Unfortunately, for families and households that are needing food assistance, there are trade-offs every month. 28% of households have to choose between paying for food or paying for school loan, tuition, or other educational expenses. 65% of households have to choose between paying for food and paying for their medical costs. %53 choose between paying for food and paying their rent or mortgage. Transportation is another trade-off that many of these families have to make, with 65% of households choosing between food and paying for transportation or gas. And 59% have to make that same choice when it comes to the utilities to heat and light their homes. The same Hunger in America study asked clients in their surveys what their top desired products are that they don't receive enough of. And the number one desired product is the fresh fruits and vegetables that your gardens can help distribute to those clients who are in need. Dairy products such as milk, cheese, and yogurt are also highly desired, as well as protein items like meat. As I mentioned, there are 8 food banks that cover the state of Iowa, and this map shows the service area for each of those food banks. Several years ago, the Food Bank of Iowa started a couple of programs or initiatives specifically designed to grow and provide fresh produce. These pictures are taken at the Gardening for Good in Madrid, Iowa, where a family has dedicated 7 acres of their land to grow, cultivate, and harvest produce specifically for the Food Bank of Iowa. In fiscal year 2015, 1.2 million pounds of fresh produce was distributed to our partner agencies and directly to our clients. The Produce Initiative started in 2012 when we partnered with the Newton Correctional Facility. The offenders at the correctional facility plant and harvest 12 acres that are grown and donated to the Food Bank of Iowa. They plant and harvest an additional 12 acres that are used for the needs of the facility there in Newton. And having been to that facility and spoken with the staff members who oversee the program, they will tell you that the offenders love this program and do a better job of weeding and harvesting the 12 acres that are donated to the Food Bank of Iowa than they do for the food that's used right there. The program is all done by volunteers. The offenders volunteer for the program. They do have to apply to be a volunteer with the program, and it has been a great partnership in providing skills and training for men who are getting ready to be re-entered into society. Gardening for Good is the program in Madrid where the pictures were taken, and they have increased. The family initially started when they dedicated 5 acres in 2014, and they have increased that to 7 acres, plan to grow at least 7 acres again in 2016. Corporate Giving Gardens are a newer program that the United Way of Central Iowa piloted, where gardens are grown on site at local corporation facilities. And there are 3 of those operating in the Des Moines metro area, where the staff members do all of the planting, harvesting of the produce, and then it is brought for distribution to the Food Bank of Iowa. It's important to find where your local partner is based on where your garden is. As I mentioned, all 8 food banks in the state of Iowa are affiliated with Feeding America and the Food Bank Association. Both of those organizations have websites where you can find your local food bank. It's available at feedingamerica.org or www.iowafba.org. Each will have a link to find your food bank. You can type in the zip code of your area and it will direct you to the appropriate food bank. When you are working with a food pantry or a food bank, please be aware that most partner agency food pantries are staffed by volunteers with very limited hours for operation. We would suggest making contact with the food bank that serves your community first. They can assist with making a connection at a food pantry. Just as you will create your map of what you would like to plant, where it will be located, and how you will manage it, a food bank or your food pantry needs to do the same thing. It's important to involve them on the front end. No food providing organization wants to turn produce away, but we all have to be ready to take that produce on and have the facilities available. Again, I would ask that you please work with your local food bank or food pantry before you begin your garden. Every food providing organization is different and we all have different capacities. Showing up during harvest with 100 pounds of zucchini may unfortunately result in a food bank or pantry not being able to accept, store, or distribute that product. And that is something that we do not want to have happen. Determining what best to plant. Items grown by the 2 programs we have were really chosen for their hardiness. They are more robust, shelf-stable. They have a longer time to be available. Work with your local food bank again to determine which produce items are the most requested. Some food banks will already have relationships in place where they may get a particular type of produce. So they may be looking to have another type grown specifically for them. That's again why it is such a great opportunity to work on the front end with your food bank in order to grow what is most needed and most requested. So again, I want to thank you for taking part today in this. My contact information is on your screen. If you have any questions about how to become involved with your local food bank or about the program in general of participating and connecting with a food bank in your area, please feel free to contact me. If I don't have the answer, I will certainly find it out for you and get you in touch with a food bank in your area. Thank you again.
Okay, and hello everyone. You might remember me. My name is Christine Roddick, and I was one of the speakers on the first webcast that's part of this training series. And I'm glad to be back again today to visit a little bit with Sarah. We're very thankful to her for spending time with us and working on this training. And we wanted to take just a few minutes to visit a little bit more deeply with her about some of the work that she has done in the food banking system in Iowa and share a little bit about her experience and kind of bring a personal note to some of the information and data that she has shared. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
And we have just a few questions for you. First, kind of a big picture question. What inspired you to choose this for your career, to choose this for your focus?
Well, I've worked in the nonprofit sector for 17, 18 years, and have had some experience working in human service field before. I was setting up meetings, ironically, for a women's leadership organization, and we wanted to look at some programs that were serving youth in the community. And so in setting up these meetings, I learned about the backpack program at the Food Bank of Iowa. As a result, there was a position open as the program coordinator to run the backpack program. And it was just the perfect time for me to make a career change. So when I came to the Food Bank of Iowa, and that was almost 7 years ago, it was specifically to work on the backpack program.
Okay, great. Can you tell us a little bit more about the backpack program and how that works?
Absolutely. The backpack program is really designed for elementary school children. So we're looking at age 5 through 12, K through 5th or 6th grade. But the products that are a part of the backpack program are designed for kids of that age to be able to open, to do any kind of very minimal preparation that they need. The crux of the program is that we make this food available and we send it home with children on the weekends. They have breakfast and lunch at school, but when the weekend comes, they may not have much food at home. Or there may be some food at home, but they don't have the ability to fix it or prepare it. So we'll put individual fruit cups in there. A child may not be able to manipulate opening a can opener. And if mom or dad or their guardian are not at home to help them with that, they're not going to have anything to eat. So we really look at that age group of kids. But what we're trying to target is children who are chronically hungry. And so we work with the schools to identify the kids who are to take part in the program. They're kids who, at a very minimum, are eligible in receiving the federal free and reduced lunch program. From there, we have a guideline for identifying chronically hungry children. So there are physical signs that kids will exhibit in addition to emotional or behavioral symptoms that we'll see with that program.
Okay, great. And so knowing all that you know about the food banking system and the programs that are a part of it, whether it's backpacks or the gardening initiatives, is there a story you can tell us about a particular family that you've heard about or something like that that might help us kind of put a human face on this really big issue of food insecurity in our state?
Yeah. The story that sticks with me, and this is probably as a parent, it's appalling to me that 1 in 5 children in our state do not have enough to eat. This is Iowa. We grow things here. It's unconscionable that our kids don't have enough to eat. One of the larger initial programs that we worked to set up was at a urban school in Des Moines. And we were getting ready to launch the backpack program, and I was at the school. We were looking at the location where we were going to store the product, how the distribution was going to take place. And my contact at the school, she was going to be the site coordinator, was telling about coming into a classroom. And this had just happened recently. She had come into a classroom that the lights were out. There was a young girl who was in the classroom. She was eating a half-eaten apple that had been in the garbage can from somebody else's lunch. And the child had taken it out of the garbage can to finish it off. And that's happening right here. And again, as a parent, to me, that it's unconscionable.
Yep. And, those types of stories, I think, are so meaningful. And we spoke on the first webcast about how hunger in Iowa and hunger in the United States doesn't look the way we expect it to look. It doesn't look the way that hunger looks on TV and that sort of thing, but nevertheless it's there. So I think that having stories like that to accompany all of the statistics that we have is really helpful. Given all of your experience and the fact that we have a lot of Iowans listening to our webcasts, can you tell us if you had a couple of minutes to speak to every Iowan in our state, what would you want them to know about the people that utilize our food bank and food pantry system?
Sure. The families, the individuals, the seniors who are accessing the emergency food system in our state and in our communities, it's any of us. It's your neighbor, it's your siblings, it's your child's best friend's family. It definitely, hunger looks much different than what we're used to seeing on TV, because that's malnutrition and starvation. But these are people that we all know, and it is, it's in a lot of cases, it's the person you work with. There's so many things that go on in families and in households that put so many people at risk of needing food assistance. So many people, again, that time when the financial crisis really hit hard in 2008 and 2009, because we're seeing a steady recovery, but we're also seeing an increased demand. And, so there's the question of why, what's happening. Families who found themselves in crisis in 2008, if they were already in crisis, they just got deeper in the hole. It's going to take longer for those families to get back to, a normal, some stability. Other families found themselves for the first time needing to access the emergency food network. So what's happened, though, in those first couple of years when they maybe experienced a job loss or underemployment, they exhausted every resource they had, from every savings they had, family, friends, everything they could. And now it's a couple of years later, they still haven't gotten back to that stable level. They've exhausted all of their extra resources they have, and now they need to access the emergency food network. So while I'm thrilled with economic recovery, it will take longer for these families to come back from that. One thing that I think is so important for people to know is it is so easy to help. So easy to help. Whether it's what you're growing and being able to donate that to your local pantry or to your food bank. Of course, I talk about financial donations go a long way, but we need the food, and fruits and vegetables are the top requested item from clients. And so this is why this program is so ideal. Again, easy to help. It's really, really, it's the best food we can offer. And the clients want it. They're so thrilled when we have fruits and vegetables that are available.
Well, great. I think that for me, doing the direct education work through ISU Extension that I do with families with low income, it's absolutely true, what you said. So many of the families we work with will be able to point to an event or, a circumstance that they somehow went from being stable to not being stable, and that it's something that can happen to anyone. And for many of them, they never pictured themselves as being the one who would need to go and visit the food pantry.
Right.
So I really liked your point that it could be anybody. It could be your neighbor. Poverty doesn't look the way we necessarily expect it to look all of the time. And so bringing this back around to our Master Gardener project and why we're seeking to engage all of you out there in this project is obviously what Sarah just said, that it's easy to help. You all have an amazing capacity in terms of You know what you need to know to grow food for these families. In many cases, you have the resources that you need. We're putting this, chunk of funding out there to try to support you in getting started with this work. But we really hope to mobilize the master gardeners. We know that you already have that kind of volunteer spirit, that you're already doing a lot of volunteer work around horticulture and gardening, and to direct some of that in the direction of supporting Hungry Iowans, I think is really powerful. So hopefully that kind of helps you see how this all comes full circle from all of the need and the programs that Sarah discussed to how this all comes to a point with this project to have master gardeners growing food for food pantries. So thank you, Sarah, and thank you to all of you. And don't hesitate to reach out and contact Sarah if you have a question about partnering with food banks or food pantries. She's a great resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah and Christine. So to wrap up today, I just wanted to pose your small group with 2 additional questions. So if you want to jump back into your small groups to address these questions. The first one is, what partnerships do you already have established with a local food bank or partner agency? And the second is, what are some new ideas you have for donating produce? I'll start the 5-minute timer, and when you're finished, that will be the end of this presentation. Thanks, everybody.